you can have a neighborhood of multimillionaires on one side of the highway, and on the other side of the highway, it's people living in absolute desperate poverty. I don't know if you ever played with a magnifying glass when you were a kid and let the sun shine through the magnifying glass to try and set the leaves on fire. If you concentrate that sunbeam really, really small, the heat becomes more intense, and you're more likely to start a fire. Whereas if you spread that beam out too wide, you dilute the light, and the chances that the leaves are going to catch fire is almost non-existent. And that's kind of how I think about circular economies. If you wanna spark something, then have like 2 or 3 businesses where the business owners are like super orange pilled. They're receiving Bitcoin payments every single day, multiple times a day, and then just focus on that and see if it grows organically from there.
That's all right. Hello to Herman, and welcome to Old Moon channel, where we talk about circular economies. We talk about problems, solutions, and what everyone into that space tackling and trying to set up a circular economy faces. And if you can take away something from that chat, we'll be very happy. So we're saying hello to Herman. Probably most of you know him from Bitcoin Akasi. So hi, Herman.
Welcome.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, just before we went online, I was actually catching up on your Twitter, X, and got halfway through the movie that you've done, documenting how the communities, not just obviously surfing as your background, if people didn't know about that, and but also getting them involved in skateboarding and having a role model. Yeah, so I'd like this. This resonated with me, so I think it just sort of sparked a question. You're very much going into communities that there's a lot of challenges they face for sure. Perhaps more than Western Europe. Let's put it that way. And I think one thing that
that's debatable, maybe.
That is debatable, actually. Nasco just said my home country, originally, UK. But that's a topic for another chat, another time. So things. I like the idea of with the youth and bringing people up. I think that resonated with me, and having this idea of having a local role model. So instead of you said it can't be myself. I have not come from their world. And I just wanted to ask you a little bit about how that thinking evolved, and how's that going? How is that inspiring? Is it working?
I mean, you mentioned that you traveled to South Africa in the early 90s, and so having been here, you would have seen that South Africa. It's not the only place in the world that has this, but South Africa is one of those places where it's kind of two worlds within the same country. You can have a neighborhood of multimillionaires on one side of the highway, and on the other side of the highway, it's people living in absolute desperate poverty. We make fun of the problems in Europe because they do have their own problems, but it's not the same as what we have here. I mean, in South Africa, there's desperation where people are literally starving because of just poverty and living in the mud. So I grew up on the more privileged side of the highway. I come from a family where my parents could afford to give me opportunities in life. I have a university degree. I didn't study anything useful, but I did obtain a degree at the end of it. And which is very expensive. It's more money than what many people will see in their entire life if they're living right at the bottom of the how can you call it, the social ladder. So I've always just known. I mean, it's not even like a politically or ideological thing at all. It's just that I've just learned from experience that if somebody can identify with you, then they're far more likely to listen to your advice and your insights. But if they see themselves as different from you, then, you can shout at the top of your voice. They're just going to ignore what you have to say because there's no common ground. And I think that's quite obvious. And that's why we look for role models, to help, teach the kids that come from a similar background. And we use things like surfing and skateboarding. The movie you were talking about was a little skateboarding documentary about the bowl that we built.
Yes.
And it's been really cool to see the kids learn another skill. That skating that bowl is really difficult. It's like I can't. I'm past that age where I'm going to learn how to do that. It's really quite extreme. And to see some of those kids that we built it a year ago, so we've had it for about a year, and to see the level of physical skill that's been developed thanks to it is it's just incredible.
And how does that tie in with the circular economy and the actual use of SATs in the community?
Well, so we've been running these youth programs for a long time. I've been doing this for 15 years. We started the first of our youth programs, which was based only around surfing, in 2010, and sort of did that as a part-time thing until 2015, and then in 2015 really went at it in a sort of a full-time way, where we had kids come and join the surf program 5 days a week, and we still operate. Well, now we kind of operate almost 7 days a week. There's always somebody at the center, and there's always kids surfing from Monday to Sunday. So that's kind of the basis for the circular economy, because what we do is obviously we employ a bunch of coaches and teachers and lifeguards to keep the kids safe in the water. We've got people who look after the skateboarding gear. We've got people who repair surfboards for the kids. We've got people who cook for the kids. It's like a whole school, basically. We've got, I don't know, 50, 60 kids, maybe more, that attend on a daily basis, 5 days a week. So it's quite an operation. I don't know if you've spent a lot of time around kids, but anything more than 2 is chaos. So to run an operation for 50 kids 5 days a week, you need staff, and those staff, the cooks, the cleaners, the coaches, the lifeguards, those staff are the ones who earn their salaries in SATs. So as an organization, as a school, if you want to put it that way, surfing school or skateboarding school, whatever, we don't pay any salaries in fiat. We pay 100% of all our salaries in Bitcoin only, and we employ about 10 people full-time and another 12 people part-time. So it's not a massive operation, but it's big enough so that those SATs can then flow into the local economy and sort of function as the engine for the circular economy, because the staff understand very well that we're able to do a lot of the fundraising that we do, thanks to the fact that we're building a circular economy. So the more they assist with the building of circular economy, the more successful the whole project becomes. And so today we don't do only surfing and skateboarding. We've got a bunch of other stuff related specifically to Bitcoin. We run daily Bitcoin education classes. We have a Bitcoin diploma program. We do a whole bunch of stuff that's no longer related only to surfing and skateboarding, but that's kind of where it started. And it's still the same model. Whatever we do, the aim is to try and empower youngsters, the next generation. And we used to do that through surfing only, but we do that through sort of financial literacy education and Bitcoin education on top of the surfing now.
Brilliant. Yeah, I get it totally. So the amounts are not going to be, because obviously we're talking about South Africa, but these SATs, if they're in someone's wallet, presumably they're going to be asking other merchants to accept. They're probably helping. Are they helping to make the circular economy bigger?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I actually had this conversation with somebody today. I met with a charity organization just down the road today. And this is something that I've been trying to do for the last 2 to 3 years, is trying to convince other community organizations, charities, businesses, whatever the case may be, trying to convince them to do the same thing. And so I had this conversation earlier today, and basically how it started was I went to one of our senior coaches in 2021. And I told them, look, there's this really cool project in El Salvador. They're called Bitcoin Beach. This is what they've been doing. I explained to him that I've been into Bitcoin for many, many, many years, obsessed with it. Try to give him a brief explanation of what Bitcoin is. And then I told him, look, what we can do is, I have a little bit of Bitcoin funding available. What we can do is we can increase your salary by like 10% or 20%. I can't remember what it was. But it was something like that. So I'll increase your salary by 20% on the condition that I pay that extra amount in Bitcoin, and you can do one of two things with that Bitcoin. You can either go and either go and onboard a local shop in your community to accept Bitcoin as payment, or you can save it. The choice is yours. But you cannot take that extra Bitcoin that you receive and go and cash it out. You can't exchange it for fiat. If you're going to exchange it for fiat, then I'm not going to pay you this extra salary increase. The extra salary increase is predicated upon the agreement that you use it as Bitcoin, whether you're saving or spending. And he was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And that's kind of how it's gone ever since. So whenever a new person joins the team, or when we flipped an existing salary over to Bitcoin, the agreement was like, look, we're only going to do this on the condition that you follow the same lead. I can't tell you what to do with your money. It's your money, but I'm not going to be very happy if I find out that you're selling this Bitcoin. You either got to spend it as Bitcoin. So in other words, if you want something that you can't get, you got to onboard the merchant where you can get it. Or you can save it. And that's basically been the premise from day one. And that's basically the foundation of a circular economy, as I understand it, is to try and get people to spend sats, but ultimately the aim is not just to spend, it's also to save. If all you have is sats, then you're earning, spending, and saving in sats.
That's what we're all after. Yeah. I love this idea of only an increase if you save or spend. So I think that's a tip if you're looking to set up a circular economy. You align these incentives to ensure these sats flow, or at least don't get converted to fiat.
Also, I love the idea where, in your case, so basically you're giving something good to the community, and you have the kids, you teach them surf, and Bitcoin comes as additional layer. So that's happening with us as well. Like, we have our restaurants, many customers, and you need to give away something for free, or you just need to give something just to get this level of trust. And then you can start explaining, start onboarding with the Bitcoin. You cannot just go ahead and just say, okay, you need to start doing the Bitcoin thing, because it's difficult. You need to contribute something first. That's 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you gotta show people that they have a reason to trust you, whatever the case may be. And in our case, we had the existing charity organization, and by the time we introduced the idea of Bitcoin, we'd been working with the kids from that community for 5-6 years, if not more. And so the coaches that were going around onboarding the shops were familiar faces to the community, because they'd been recruiting kids from that community for many years. They themselves grew up there, and there's other circular economy projects where it's an entirely different setup, like, with what you guys are doing, for example, and with what places like Vitsand, which is just on the road from us, are doing. It's it's not related specifically to a social community project, perhaps. But even if you're working with businesses, it takes a huge investment of your time where you don't receive anything in return because you're basically convincing somebody to trust you. And that I mean, in my experience, there's only one way to do that, and that's an investment of time. So yeah, it's it's give a lot before you see results.
Yeah.
Yeah, we agree with that. Yes, it took me a year to onboard my coffee shop just below me.
There we go.
But actually, there was a payback to the heart, as they say. I was once just hanging out there, and I don't think he saw me. He said to a customer, "How would you like to pay? Cash, card, or Bitcoin?" So you can tell.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. And I mean, at the end of the day, it does benefit you if more people adopt Bitcoin. It's not. I mean, that's what I like about this model of adoption, is that it's not entirely altruistic. Like I'm doing the work that I'm doing with a charity organization, and we're 100% donation based. The charity does not. I mean, we do generate some income to fund some of our projects, but for the most part, it's a entirely donation based typical charity. I mean, we take donations and we put that money to good use. We have a relationship with corporate sponsors in some cases, but a lot of our donors are private individuals. But even in our case with the charity, there's still it's not entirely like selfless. I mean, I have a personal motivation to do what I do, because the more adoption I foster, the more I benefit, and I like that. It's not entirely altruistic, because I don't think anything that's entirely altruistic is sustainable in the long run. I mean, I figured that out myself with this charity. I mean, after after several years, it becomes apparent that at some point you're going to run out of steam to work for free. And so I like the Bitcoin mind bug. It's not an entirely altruistic thing, because I do benefit from adoption, and I'm very honest about that when I tell people. But it's mutual benefit. It's a benefit for everyone. It's not that I'm exploiting other people by adopting them. They benefit, I benefit, we all benefit the more people adopt it.
So there is also another one which has been quite famous recently, the circular economy of Kibera. And there's quite a lot of analogy there, because they had, as far as I remember, their main goal was to start cleaning. And this is how they got the community. They proved that they're doing a good stuff there, cleaning the parts, and they distribute sats in one way or another. But can you give some advice to anyone watching, listening, about raising funds for that type of being a charity and having some sats as donation and doing something good for the community? And I know Geyser, because we have been a recipient of some things on Geyser, and to us that has been number one. But can you share more about your journey?
I mean, I think probably the most important thing I share is and this is a mistake that anybody can make, and it's a very common mistake, I think, is to try and grow too quick, too big. I'm very grateful that when our project started drawing a lot of attention in 2020, we onboarded our first store in August 2021, and then we onboarded another store that same month. But we operated without posting anything on social media for 3-4 months, just to see if it's feasible. And then in early 2022 started posting stuff online, and almost immediately, I think there was an appetite in the Bitcoin community to see real world adoption in other places other than El Salvador. And when they saw it happening in a slum in South Africa, there was a lot of excitement, and it drew a lot of attention very quickly. And by that stage, I'd been running the charity for 10 years, and I'm very grateful that I learned a very tough lesson in those 10 years, and that's that charity is a very, very unpredictable business. One day, lots of people say they want to help you. The next day, there's no one. And 99% of the time, people who say they want to help you, nothing ever happens. And so I went into that early stages of our project where we started getting a huge amount of traction on social media. And I was like, oh, this is very exciting. But I should remember that the lessons I learned in the 10 years leading up to this, that's not going to change. Like, I'm still dealing with human beings here. I'm still dealing with a little bit of hype, if you want to put it that way. People get very excited about something and then they move on to the next thing. And so if you're running a charity organization and you do find a decent amount of funding, you should be ultra conservative with how you spend that money, and not undertake projects that you've raised half the funding, and then you start working on a project that's going to require you to double your funding during the course of the project, because it's just setting yourself up for failure. Rather plan small, start small, and then build after having raised the money. Build up a proof of work. I think especially in the charity space, you should expect people to want to see a lot of proof of work. Good ideas don't go very far in convincing people that you want they should give you money. I think a track record speaks louder than anything else. So I see a lot of people making these two mistakes, which is to plan too much too quickly, to grow too big too quickly. Number one, and number two, to think that a good idea is going to get them the money they need. I think charity can be very effective if it stays small, but I think large charities end up wasting money. And so I've had to sort of fight against the tendency of any organization to just keep growing and growing and growing. And it's like, okay, well, if you're a business, that's fine because you're generating the income that you're using to grow. But if you're a charity, you're relying on the generosity of other people to keep growing. And that doesn't quite seem like that's necessarily a good thing. Like, I think charity is fantastic. And I think people have a natural inclination towards charity. We all want to help our fellow human beings, but I think charity should stay as small as possible. You should stay as small as possible in order to achieve your aims. And then you should expect to do a lot of work before people are going to really pay attention to your ideas. That's maybe not a very positive message, but it's realistic.
I think it's a very proper and right message, I would say. And actually echoes really how NASCO and I feel, because we've taken an existing restaurant services business. We have Google reputation. We have now actually an AI ability for restaurants to use QR menu, and the right wine is matched to the right dish. So all these things you can charge for. And we're saying to circular economies, hey, make it commercial. Don't rely on charity, and use our services. They could be white labeled and get cash from venues. However, we have a number of services that people pay for: table booking, delivery. All these things work here in Bulgaria, and they can be used anywhere else with a bit of translation if it's not English. And then we've got the Bitcoin bit in the app that it's a breeze integration. So it's all there, ready to turn on or be used at any stage. But I think more people do need to, in my views, not rely on the charity. I can't agree with you more, actually, Herman. I think there's a big push on charity, and it's all good. And the bit of charity that we've had, we just used that as a little dust on top, just to give things a little boost, a little incentive to some of the fair new owners. We've given some sats back, but it hasn't been how we exist at all. We haven't started in that place at all. So I would urge people to look at businesses they have or could start and then integrate Bitcoin into that rather than fight for charity money. I totally agree.
I think we should very carefully focus and figure out where you should be spending. As Herman just saying, you have a budget, and it's like a project which has an end date. It's not like running forever charity thing. And one of the things we found, because we had these sats from the grant, and we said we're going to give sats back to people who actually spent. Second, we're going to give sats to business owners. And third, we're going to give sats to the delivery drivers. So the most successful one was giving sats to the business owners. This is what actually Orange built these businesses. It didn't drive that many people to start paying with Bitcoin rather than fiat, because this is where you're tackling the HODL mentality, but it didn't work that well. Even if you give like 10, 20% discount or in the way of sats back, it just didn't take off. What we had is just the real Bitcoiners, which were mad supporters of medium of exchange, and they were actually using this sats back campaign, but they were going to pay anyway. So we figure out these people were actually going to pay anyway. They were not there for the sats back. But the only difference that made was giving sats to the business owners. But again, we were in totally different market, totally different latitude here and longitude, and the economic situation as well. But talking about the circular economy, can you just say, I think we did have a chat about this topic somewhere on Telegram, I believe. How do you measure the circulation of sats, and should we measure, and can we give advice to anyone building a circular economy that they can actually do some measures? And this is like the proof of work as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I would repeat the same thing that I said, with the charity, is that if you are going to start a charity, make it more effective by staying small. Circular economy, I would say, do the same thing. Like it's probably better for a circular economy to have 10 businesses who each receive one payment in Bitcoin every single day than to have 100 businesses that receive one payment in Bitcoin every 10 days. You may be able to say, look, I onboarded 100 businesses, and that sounds very impressive. And that might look more impressive on social media or, wherever. But I think in reality, it's going to be far more effective if you only have 10 businesses, but every single day, there's one or two transactions in Bitcoin flowing through those businesses. And so that's my, and I repeat this. I mean, I repeat this so often. We have several projects across Africa that we are trying to assist in building circular economies. Some of them are based on a charity platform like we are, but some are not. Some are based entirely on the business community. Just as a side note, in many ways, I think doing it on the business community, which is the approach that you guys have taken, is actually better because it's more sustainable. So I tend to encourage people to go for that route if they can. I think the charity route should only be taken where you already have an existing charity that is functional and is fulfilling a very specific need. There you can use that platform. But I don't think anybody should start a charity with the aim of starting a circular economy on top of it. If that's what you're going to do, then just focus on the existing business community, because there's already a business community there already anyway. But but anyway, I would say that whichever way you go, whether it's based on a community organization, a business community, a charity platform, whatever the case may be, start small and stay small. It's kind of like I don't know if you ever played with a magnifying glass when you were a kid and let the sun shine through the magnifying glass to try and set the leaves on fire. If you concentrate that sunbeam really, really small, the heat becomes more intense and you're more likely to start a fire. Whereas if you spread that beam out too wide, you dilute the light, and the chances that the leaves are going to catch fire is almost non-existent. And that's kind of how I think about circular economies. Like, if you wanna spark something, then have like 2 or 3 businesses where the business owners are like super orange pilled. They're receiving Bitcoin payments every single day, multiple times a day, and then just focus on that and see if it grows organically from there. Because if you spread your effort out amongst 100 merchants, by the time you get back to merchant number 1, he hasn't received the transaction in 6 months. He's deleted the wallet. There's a new person working behind the counter. They don't care about Bitcoin. The owner has lost interest. And you kind of have to start all over again. It was sort of a waste of time anyway.
That's so true. So true. In our case.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going, what's the current, just give us some exciting information about Ekasi there in your area. Do we have businesses where you have, where they accept Bitcoin on daily basis? Is it happening already? Brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think there's one thing to be, but look, you can do this with a charity or a business. It doesn't have to be charity. But there is something to be said for the model that we followed, which is, if you're paying salaries in Bitcoin, you have a very, very strong flow of sats into the community, especially if you're paying salaries only in Bitcoin. So we don't pay any fiat salaries at all. And that means that there are several businesses that are receiving several transactions in Bitcoin every single day. Not to the same extent as they're receiving fiat transactions, but it's probably quite close. Like, there's maybe 1 or 2 businesses where the amount of payments they receive in Bitcoin rivals the amount of payments they receive in fiat. And these are the businesses that have been on board for the longest time, and where most of our coaches buy groceries on a daily basis. If they need bread, that's where they go. If they need milk, that's where they go. If they want to buy a cool drink, that's where they go. If they want to buy themselves lunch, that's where they would go. And because the coaches and the staff we employ, the only money they receive as income, because they work, I mean, most of them work full-time, or at least half of them work full-time. The ones that work part-time are still in high school. So, well, even the ones that work part-time, that the only income they receive is in Bitcoin. So they're far more likely to go to a shop that accepts Bitcoin as payment than one that doesn't. So this all kind of feeds off one another. So now there's definitely a couple of stores that are receiving multiple payments in Bitcoin every single day, 7 days a week. Yeah, I mean, exciting news, I guess. There's one thing that we've been working on for a long time, and we're kind of getting to a point where we're almost ready to sort of move on to the next phase, which is we have this support center. Look, because we're dealing with a community where poverty is very, very high, unemployment is something like 60%. It's there's illiteracy is a huge problem. People can't read or write. So from the very beginning, we realized that we need a dedicated support center. Kind of like if you were to give your grandmother or your grandfather an Apple iPad, and if something goes wrong, they'd have to have a physical location where they can walk into, sit down at the table with someone and go, okay, right, help me. You can't tell your granny or your grandpa, go, Google it or search for a YouTube video, go figure it out. Like, that's probably probably not going to happen. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. We have to have a physical space where people who have issues with wallets, if they struggle to read numbers, for example, they've learned how to read the numbers on the physical notes and coins that they use in fiat money every day. But now it's a whole new set of numbers that they got to learn to read, because the numbers and sats look very different from the numbers that they're used to on the coins and the notes. And in a highly developed country where education is better, these are not problems that you have to think about. But in our context, you have to think about this. So we have this physical space that we're building as a support center, and we've been using a temporary space for the last 2 years. We always knew it would be temporary, and we've been going through a large, very cumbersome bureaucratic process to get land from the local government to build a support center. We're getting land from the local government because it's very cheap. We don't have to pay a lot of money for it. And so we're almost, after a year and a half, we're almost at a place where we can finalize that purchase and start working on the actual building. And so we'll hopefully be able to make some announcements around that early next year. And when we do that, it's going to be a very cool space to have people come and visit, because we'll be able to offer visitor accommodation for people to actually come and live inside the circular economy that we've built. Bitcoiners will be welcome, and they'll always have first priority to come and experience what this circular economy feels like. Which is quite exciting. I think that's very exciting. Everybody that visits here is always very excited about what we do, and especially non-Bitcoiners. I think it's eye-opening to see Bitcoin applied in this kind of context, and that's the thing that excites me more than anything else. Is people, no coiners come with environmental this, environmental that, scam, pyramid scheme, blah 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 blah, and then they visit our project and they go, oh wow, okay, Bitcoin is something very different from what I had in mind. And so I want to create an environment where we can encourage people to come and visit.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's a big lesson there. Reality different than particularly mainstream media has portrayed Bitcoin, that's for sure. Amazing work. Thank you for that. I think we ought to wrap up, Nasco, because we're just about there.
So it's important to let whoever's listening to the end, watching, where can they go and find news on X or whatever, and support the projects you're doing?
I mean, the best place to find us is on X or Nostr. We've got quite a public profile on both of those. And I mean, we post most of our updates on both platforms, and on both of those you can find links to our support pages. So the X handle is @BitcoinEkasi, and from there you'll find links to everything else. Just maybe one other thing I would add as well is, it's not only no coiners, but and you guys maybe have a similar experience. I think all circular economies have this one thing in common, where it's also Bitcoiners who have this HODL mentality, who have their eyes opened when they come to a circular economy. But in our case, I find that the thing that opens their eyes is that, and this is also why I'm so excited to build this center where we can offer support to the local community, but also, allow visitors from outside to come in. But Bitcoiners from the first world with this HODL mentality, when they visit here, they often see that the only way that you're going to get the people that we work with into Bitcoin is to first teach them how to spend it. Because you've got books and books and books and books on Bitcoin, but and podcasts and videos and whatever the case may be, all of that means absolutely nothing if you do not have a very high level of literacy. If you don't understand fancy words, if you can't read very well, if you struggle to read, if the school that you were at never taught you how to read English or read properly, it makes it very difficult to learn how to trust the system through a mental academic education. And so how do you educate people if you can't educate them in that way? Well, I can teach somebody how to trust Bitcoin very easily. I can pay them a salary in Bitcoin, and then I can tell them, you don't have to worry about what it is, but you can go and spend it over there at that shop. And then every day they get their salary, and every day they spend it at that shop. And eventually, this becomes normal money to them, except that they're looking at their wallet every day and they see the price of their money going up and down. And eventually they see it going up and up and up and up. And they think to themselves, well, hang on a minute. I'm getting paid in a different kind of money here. The price of my money is going up. So I think the money that I'm getting paid in is better than the other money. Maybe I should start saving some of this stuff. They don't understand the op return debate. They don't understand how a blockchain works. They don't know what the fuck a UTXO is, and they will never understand that, but that's okay. That doesn't matter. The point is that I've taught people how to use Bitcoin, and I've taught people how to trust Bitcoin, and that's more important. I've taught people how to trust Bitcoin by getting them to first spend it on a daily basis. And there is no other way, I guarantee you, there is no other way to get the people that we work with to trust Bitcoin. And many of them, their lives have been completely changed because they've been stacking sats throughout this entire bear market. And I just don't see how somebody who's into Bitcoin like I am, but who's got this HODL mentality of no, you must never spend your Bitcoin. You must never spend your Bitcoin. It's like, okay, explain to me how I'm going to onboard the people that I'm working with if I have to follow your advice. It's just not possible. And so that's something that I think all circular economies are particularly important for, is that what you're doing, what we are doing, what other circular economies are doing, you're introducing people to Bitcoin. The guy at your coffee shop, you say it took a year to onboard the coffee shop to Bitcoin. Perhaps if you'd never onboarded him to spend Bitcoin, he never would have thought about learning about it, probably. And so I think it's a very, very valuable thing that we are doing. And I think it's underestimated. And I don't think it's appreciated enough in general.
Herman, I think you're absolutely right. And to think even people with university educations, people just don't want to learn what a UTXO is, and they don't want to understand the history of money, but they do want to understand that they can buy a coffee, a beer, and it is real money. And I know different things resonate with different people, but remittances, I know some of that will be important for some of the people in your communities. And so many good tips there. So much of it echoes with our experience. I know Nasco's nodding as well. We better wrap it up there. It's been an amazing chat, and you've also whetted my appetite to, 40 years on or more, 45 years on, to go back down to South Africa. I'll try and find an excuse and enjoy your wonderful efforts there, and the surfing and the circular economy. So thank you so much, Herman.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and wrapping up the show.
And the paragliding, definitely.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this, of course, please spread the good message around. All of us are into Bitcoin being used as money. Yes, indeed, it is money. So once again, thanks for watching. Thanks, Herman. We'll see you all in the next one.